This video series covers the 3 essential ingredients for choosing a business communication service for the quick service restaurant or QSR industry. It's presented by Unified Office, the providers of Total Connect Now. We believe the 3 important criteria for selecting a QSR business communication service are converting phone calls into dollars by capturing all calls and increasing their sales value. Second is driving operational excellence by measuring key metrics and keeping them in the green. And the third is creating a winning store culture by fostering a customer-first attitude among your staff. Let's talk about the third ingredient. To give us a real-world perspective on how to build a winning store culture with Unified Office, we have Chris Courtemanche from Dufficy Enterprises. Hi Chris, could you give us an overview of your background and your experience with Unified Office?
I've been with Domino's for 20 years. 15 of it was on the corporate side of the house, and ended up teaming up with a local franchisee here in Massachusetts when I was the franchise area leader here, and left corporate, and Jeff Dufficy and I decided to pursue growing his company. So I took on the role of Vice President of Operations. I run the day in and day out operations of the company. So what happened with Unified Office was from the day we put it in, it was like fireworks happening. It was our sales just went up $5,000 the first week we had it in. It was pretty crazy, and then we've kind of sustained that level since we've had the phones in.
Many people think of installing a new phone system as a complicated process. Did you find deploying the Unified Office service to be fairly straightforward?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you order the package and you really don't have to do anything. The team that Unified Office has from the initial signing of order forms to order the stuff to the installation, you really don't have to do anything. They order all the equipment, they come and professionally install it all. They'll do training classes with your store, with your district managers, with your GMs. And then the cool thing is there's, on the wallboard, there's training that you can dial right up on the wallboard that your new employees that you hire can watch and learn how to, use the phones.
Unified Office has the ability to listen, coach, and train your team members to engage customers in a very professional way. How have you used this capability?
It's a pretty cool feature where you can listen in and coach and train your team members while they're taking the order, and the customer's not hearing you, give them direction and advice on how to, handle a customer. So it's a cool feature.
This is really key to creating a winning store culture, isn't it? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Not only can you listen to your team members interact with your customers, we have, a lot of rough people in that neck of the woods, and sometimes it helps for training how to handle customer concerns and how to handle customers that might not be the pleasant to deal with. And so it's been a really good tool for us and our team at that store to learn from it and entail it grew our sales because they're focused on answering the phones, within 2 rings because, everything gets kind of graded and text messages and emails get sent out if they're not answering the phones certain times, and so it's a good feature.
So training and coaching is really important to establishing the right store culture. How do you make sure that training translates into performance?
I think just the accountability at the store level. They know that, Big Brother's kind of watching with the old phones. If they didn't answer the phones in 2 rings or threw people on hold and people hung up, we necessarily didn't know that right away. And this is kind of like real-time data that, I'll get a text message at midnight if someone's not answering the phones. And, before, you can find out after the fact, but it does really no good the next day,
Would you say it was the focus on training and the use of the performance and service level management tools that drove the sales success you experienced?
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. It's they kind of just took the reins with it and knew that these numbers are being watched by us, and they knew that they had to perform.
How do you actually use these numbers as a management tool to increase the performance level in the store?
The reports that are generated on Monday morning shows you, how long it takes to answer a phone call, how long customers are on hold. So those whole metrics are graded each Monday, but they're also graded throughout the week because you have a daily one that all your team members know. Hey, we want to try to keep that arrow in the green all the time, and it's cool when you go to visit the store because it's a conversation piece where, you can talk about it. It's right up there on the wallboard, and you can bring your manager aside and say, hey, how are we going to get these numbers to where we want them? And, it just makes the conversation with your manager a lot easier to kind of lead them onto the direction that you want them to go.
What we're talking about is the Unified Office wallboard, and it's an in-store monitor that provides both audible and visual coaching for your team members. It really acts as a virtual coach in the store, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great analogy to put onto it. The wallboard itself creates that extra culture that might not always hear somebody saying, hey, make sure you answer the phone. This thing's actually there all day, talking to you all day about phone calls coming in and how you're doing with those, and you can't really, fake the system out. So I think it has the ability to really create a culture of competition also with between stores, and the overall effect having a better experience for our customers.
So in addition to providing a great customer experience on the first contact, a winning culture is also about finding problems, preventing problems, resolving problems, and special handling for those repeat customers as well, isn't it?
Of course, because, if a customer calls, places an order, and they call back 10 minutes later, the system knows that this customer's already called and placed an order, so it immediately alerts that manager needs to get this call because something's going on. Obviously, they either want to change their order, add something to it, or they're having a problem. When the phone comes in and announces manager call line 2, it's almost like they're getting first-class service, and then MVP customers, the ones that call a lot, they get that attachment to their number, and it's cool to answer the phone and saying, hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing? And we know that this customer orders once a week, so it's a better connection to the customer.
We know that most business happens at mealtimes, especially evenings and weekends. How does Unified Office help you in those situations?
So we get a vast number of calls, at least 1,000 plus a week in calls coming in. There's so many lines, you don't have to worry about a busy signal, and I think that was happening a lot with the store because we only had 5 lines before we went to Unified Office, and I think we were getting a lot of busy signals during our peak times, and now, we could have 12 lines light up at once, and, they're all going to get the opening message, and they're all going to get answered.
Part of the answer to those really busy hours is more call capacity, but the other side of it is a way to process those calls efficiently and keeping your customers engaged before they hang up the phone, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it works in twofold. Before, if they were getting a busy signal, well, we don't know if we were losing that customer or if they kept calling until the phone rang. Versus the customers now calling in, they might be hearing some specials before their calls actually to a live person, but you're actually holding that person captive kind of until the phone call gets done and entered in as an order.
It sounds like you really leverage the features of Unified Office to maximize the customer experience during those busy times. What's an example of how you personalize the customer experience with the system?
In Dorchester, there's a good-sized Spanish population, and before, when I was in the store during rush, it was crazy. They'd pick up the phone. Thank you for choosing Domino's Pizza. This is so-and-so. Would you like your specials? And the next thing you know, they're screaming, I need someone to speak Spanish. And then they're putting the person on hold. They're waiting for somebody that can speak Spanish. Now it's like it announces, hey, Spanish speaking order on line 3, and it's we kind of have an advance notice that, hey, we need somebody that speaks Spanish to grab this line, and I think it makes a little bit better experience too for the customers.
What kind of Domino's franchise owner should be considering Unified Office? Is this a solution strictly for high call volume scenarios, or can this service be a tool set for any franchise owner to create a winning store culture?
I think it would help pretty much any sales volume. I mean, I don't think it's really specific to, high volume stores. If you're getting thousands of calls a week, this system is definitely something for that owner. And even if you do have a store that has high OLO orders, you don't really know the impact this would have on your customers that don't order online, because it provides a better customer experience for them. The whole process, I think, of answering the phone is a little bit more professional. And then on top of that, the best feature of it all, it records all the phone calls. You don't always want to discipline an employee because, a customer said they were rude, because, maybe they weren't. This one, it's easy. You just go in there and click a button, and you can listen to the whole conversation and kind of judge for yourself how that employee treated your customer. And it's a great tool for training, and also a great tool for weeding out ones that might be treating our customers poorly.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us today, Chris. It sounds like you've had a good experience with Unified Office in building a winning store culture. Is it fair to say you'll be expanding your deployment to the rest of your franchise operation?
Definitely. Yep. We're right now just signed 3 more stores, and then we're in the process of building a couple of stores also that we're going to be putting these systems in.
If you'd like to learn more about Total Connect Now from Unified Office, you can schedule a demonstration. Just call 888-279-5358 or visit unifiedoffice.com/contact.